We're here on the dock in Ocean Falls, an abandoned, off-the-beaten-track place that we've been wanting to check out for so long.
Everybody who was living here, their lives were absolutely uprooted. Everything they had worked towards over the last years of living here, just gone, decimated.
It's kind of crazy that you can just walk in here.
So dark and creepy. I'm good.
We sailed our sailboat here a couple days ago, and we are so excited to finally get to check this place out. It used to be a booming industry town back in the 70s, but has been completely abandoned ever since. It's got a really unique history as well as some super cool things that are happening currently, so we're gonna fill you in about that as we wander around this really cool place. In the far reach of a remote inlet on the central coast of British Columbia lies Ocean Falls, an abandoned town clinging to the sides of mountains, centered around its crown jewel. This industrial town, set in stark contrast to the pristine beauty of the BC wilderness, was first imagined by a few folks looking to build a profitable pulp and paper mill here in the early 1900s. Using the unlimited energy supply of the falls. By 1912, a dam was built, and Ocean Falls quickly grew to become one of the largest mills in BC. It was a thriving industry town back in the 1950s, went through a big boom with thousands of people living here, and since then, it has completely died off, so it is more or less abandoned, with the exception of the 41 people who call this place home year-round. We've learned some really interesting things since we've been here on the dock, and we're so excited to finally go check this place out. Do you need to make a call?
No, I don't know who I'd call either. I don't know, do these things even still work? I mean, there's a dial tone.
There's really just one main road in this town, besides a few residential streets. So there's some interesting modes of transportation, mainly quads, like four-wheelers and side-by-sides, a couple pickup trucks.
The Polaris Ranger reigns supreme here. Diesel-powered 4x4. Gets you everywhere you need to go in Ocean Falls.
It's not that big of a place, so really you could just walk everywhere you want to go, but there are tons of bears. When we were coming in with the sailboat, there was a grizzly bear on the log boom.
Yeah, just hanging out there on a log, out floating in the middle of the water. It was incredible.
We are bear aware.
Yes, keep your eyes out, grizzlies.
If you are at all into history and sort of like creepy abandoned things, this is the place to check out 100%. It's pretty off the beaten path and out there. If you're living in Vancouver, I think you have to drive like 16 hours.
You gotta drive all the way out to Bella Coola, down that gnarly ass road that comes down into the Bella Coola Valley, and then take a ferry for like 14 hours to get here.
And in a few other steps, we are walking through sort of the main drag. I say that because that's where the post office is, as well as the gift shop. And other than that, there really is nothing else here. Like, you can't buy groceries, you can't go to the hardware store, there is no place to buy clothing, anything. Really, money doesn't have any value here because, well, there's nothing to spend it on.
Well, this is the post office here. We're told that the mail comes on Tuesday, and that's pretty well the most excitement that happens here every week. Sometimes it comes on Tuesday, sometimes it comes every second Tuesday, sometimes it comes every third Tuesday, just depending on the weather.
There is a ferry dock behind us. BC Ferries runs a service here. I think it's like once weekly. Did you catch that?
I think it's once weekly during the summer, and then during the winter it's kind of whenever the weather's good.
Yeah, so we were talking to one of the residents, and she said that she goes out on the ferry twice a year in order to get her provisions, do her grocery shopping, and pick up things that she needs to, you know, survive and stuff. So behind me here is sort of like the main drag. We've got the old co-op store, I believe, and then the Martin Inn Hotel, which at one point one of the most popular hotels in BC, which is pretty hard to believe when you're standing here now, seeing it looking so dilapidated and there's nobody here.
You can see like bits of old wallpaper inside and the paint peeling off the ceiling. And it just really gets your imagination running wild with like what this place must have looked like back in the day. I poked my head through the basement here, and like there's like full-on polished granite stairs. Like it would have been absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, we're told it was a real fancy place back in its day. It had a really great restaurant, bar. It even had a bowling alley, which is kind of crazy. One of the largest last remaining buildings, this iconic structure has become a ghost town's poster child, looming over what's left of Ocean Falls. Built in the 50s during the golden years and named in honor of the mill's company executive, it was one of the province's largest hotels, with over 400 rooms. Occupied by visitors and mill workers, it was a one-stop shop that supposedly housed everything from a dentist office, barber shop, and at one time even served as the school. It's kind of crazy that you can just walk in here. Look at this cool wallpaper, so groovy.
This would be a huge mural wallpaper.
Oh wow, is that the town? Really cool, like 1960s carpet, washrooms. I guess this would have been like the main lobby.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
So, like checked in here.
Please, could I have my room key?
We have reservations.
Yeah.
2 people.
2 people and a big bottle of paint stripper.
This place kind of looks like a bombed out war zone. Like it's out of a video game. We were a little on edge for fear of being surprised by a zombie grizzly bear or something.
So dark and creepy. I'm good.
This company town was owned, operated, and maintained by Crown Zellerbach in its entirety. The majority of its 4,000 residents lived in company housing built along the base of the steep mountain slope. Accommodation was reasonable, and utilities such as water, electricity, and heat were subsidized by the company. There was no poverty or welfare. People came to work, and there was a strong sense of community here. We wandered the last remaining neighborhood for a glimpse of what life might have been like here. There's tennis and basketball courts, a soccer net. This would have been a really thriving place back in its day.
Ocean Falls being a company town, that meaning it was owned by the mill, right? Like the mill put all the houses in, they put all the infrastructure in. This house here, it says Director of Industrial Relations on it, so I would suppose that these houses were probably lived in by people who were kind of in the upper management of the company. They're like really nice houses. They look like crap now, obviously, but like back in the day, they would have had such a commanding view out of the valley, and basically like anyone going anywhere in town would have looked up at these houses. It's pretty cool to see them still standing here. I poked my head in this one and it's like decked out with like 60s colors and everything. So I mean, they must have been like pretty skookum houses back in the day. I don't know if somebody's living here or if the Director of Industrial Relationships is home, but the lights are on in this one, so that's pretty neat. Still got a power onto it.
Spooky.
Kind of surprising, really, isn't it? You wouldn't think that in its current condition that you could still run electricity through it.
Maybe someone is still living here because there is a greenhouse. I hear people.
Like, look at this house. There's a rock retaining wall with stairs in it. You would have walked off your patio, come down the stairs to the little alleyway road that runs in front, and you have just the wide commanding view down the inlet. It's pretty beautiful real estate, if you ask me.
Would have had beautiful gardens and well-manicured lawns.
Yeah. You could only imagine what it would have looked like in the 50s with everything painted properly, the gardens perfectly manicured. It would have been something else entirely.
It's a raspberry bush.
Yeah, the raspberry canes going up through this garden. We're also been seeing tons of like old fruit trees. Like they've all grown really gnarly and aren't really growing much fruit these days, but there was fruit trees pretty well in every single garden.
I really like this one. Can we get it?
Sure.
It's a nice fixer-upper.
Still has a lot of potential. I really dig the wraparound glassed-in veranda on it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be absolutely fantastic, overlooking the inlet. You'd get the evening sun shining right in. Might have to knock down a few of these bushes. But yeah, totally doable.
I can imagine how beautiful it once was. From what we read and the old town maps that we could see, there were like hundreds of houses here all along the hillside.
Yeah, I guess they were kind of set back into the hill on kind of like terraces that have a laneway, that have a retaining wall, then it would be a building, and then behind that building another laneway, another terrace, and it kind of just went up in stages. Half the trouble with the amount of rainfall, it's not just the physical rainfall, but also the catchment, because you have all these huge granite mountains. When it catches the rain, it just must run straight down the sides and straight through the back of every building. Kind of terrifying as a house owner.
It's kind of sad in a way. Actually, it's definitely sad.
Yeah, there's definitely like a little part of you that goes like, I really wish that the place was a little bit more alive and that some of the infrastructure here was still in use. It's a bit of a shame to see it all slowly kind of like crumbling away, and just think about what the potential that it could have been, or it could be these days, you know? It's been said that Crown Zellerbach planned not for a future for this town, but for a funeral. Leading up to the 70s, the mill was becoming inefficient and uneconomical. And in 73, the word was out, the company was evacuating, the mill shutting down, and the town's fate was sealed. You can imagine how devastating this news would have been for the folks who had built their entire lives here.
Crazy. Classic.
This desk is sweet.
Crazy that you can just walk in and out of all these places, and they're like so hazardous. The floor is so nice.
Can you imagine? I would love to have a log front on my house like this, with the posts and the beams, like, oh.
Look at the size of the hardware in this thing.
I know. It's so like BC industrial, like back when the industry out here was just absolutely thriving and they could more or less just get away with anything.
Yeah, those sort of gold rush times when everyone thought that resources were just more or less endless. You just take and cut down whatever you wanted and build these really impressive structures and communities, and now nature is reclaiming them, which I feel like is the ultimate anarchist move by Mother Nature. In its final hours, the BC government purchased the town, mill, and all else for just under $1 million, stepping in to keep it running. But only for a few years till 1980, when it finally shut it down for good, and then went about demolishing it, despite pushback from its residents.
When the government shut Ocean Falls down back in the 80s, like, they came in and basically evicted everybody. Everybody had to leave. So, like, they just uprooted everybody's lives. Look, the goose is coming in.
Oh. Say it again?
So that big plane, I believe, is the mail plane, but it's called a goose, and instead of having floats like a regular float plane does to land on, it actually just lands straight on its belly, and it has these tiny two little outrigging pontoons on the tips of the wings to stabilize it. But yeah, it'll land straight onto the water, belly first. It's kind of, it's really cool to see. But back in the 80s, when the government decommissioned Ocean Falls and came in and got rid of everything, they basically just kicked everybody out. I'm not sure there was some sort of like relocation packages or something made available, but like everybody who was living here, their lives were absolutely uprooted. Everything they had worked towards over the last years of living here, just gone, decimated. You know, absolutely changed the future of their lives. Like, I believe a lot of people still have very fond memories of growing up here in Ocean Falls, and it was kind of like regarded as a paradise for being a kid.
Finally, we are taking the trail up to the hydro dam so that we can get a closer look at the falls and check everything out.
Ocean Falls may be a ghost of its former self, but its past very much exists in the memories of those who once made this town their home.
They have summer homes here, so they come here every year to fish, tons of salmon around, and then also the derby. So I think that's sort of like a reunion thing.
It happens the last weekend in August every year. It's the Ocean Falls Yacht Club Fishing Derby. There's only a small cash prize, but I think most people come for the camaraderie to check out Ocean Falls, and they have an amazing pig roast, which happens every year right here, hosted by the Ocean Falls Yacht Club. So if you're in the area, end of August, last weekend, pop by, come check it out. It's meant to be a smashing time.
We're just walking back to the marina now and had to take a detour because there was a big black bear on the abandoned strip. We were walking down that road and we seen its bum sort of dart around the corner. And then a local was like, "There's a bear there." So we just came this way. One thing I will say is that the folks here definitely enjoy their solitude. I think they see a lot of tourists or outsiders all year round. I think the people who live here come here for the solitude, and I can certainly appreciate that.
All but deserted now, this town is home to ghosts of the past. But the phantoms of Ocean Falls' future are just around the corner, where a new business has been born.
The gate to the Bitcoin operation is open.
I guess the bear has the key to it. He must be the only employee here.
Using the excess power of a century-old hydroelectric dam, ready to be harnessed by human imagination.
It's actually really interesting. Across the river here, on the other side of this bridge, is the old mill building. It's all that's really left of the mill, but now it currently holds Ocean Falls blockchain. It's really cool to see the juxtaposition of futuristic tech and old heritage trail BC kind of collide in this kind of like abandoned post-apocalyptically set town. It's pretty neat.
Place is definitely ready to fall down, but there's some really interesting old artifacts in here. Oh, there's a car.
Polaris Ranger reigns supreme here.
Keyboard, modern. I don't really like going into these places. Ooh, that's an impressive amount of moss.